increasing his dictatorial grip on the country, bolstered by billions of dollars in weapons and training from the United States. His feared secret police jailed and tortured thousands. The royal family pilfered spectacular sums from the Iranian treasury. Corrupt courtiers engaged in a lavish and opulent lifestyle, as one American president after another toasted the Shah for his steadfast friendship. And then, only then, in 1979, did the hated and hollow regime finally collapse, brought down by millions of revolutionaries streaming through the streets, a handful of them so angry that they seized the U.S. Embassy and took its employees hostage. So it has remained for 40 years. History, like almost everything else, has become a casualty in the long-running war of words between Iran and the United States. For more than 40 years, those who like to look for someone to blame or something to defend have stood in their respective corners, trading accusations about the relative criminality of the CIA coup and the embassy hostage crisis, taking very little interest in the idea that there might be a richer, more sophisticated way to look at the history that has transpired between these two nations. For more than 40 years, history has been treated as a competitive sport, just another arena of contestation in the seemingly endless array of disagreements and accusations that have been hurled back and forth between Iran and the United States. And for more than 40 years, endings, ruptures, and angry disagreements, rather than beginnings, attractions, and initial infatuations, have become the starting point for every conversation about Iran and America. We are all much poorer for it. The history of U.S.-Iranian relations did not begin in 1979, and it did not begin in 1953. It began hundreds of years ago, when the United States was still a handful of British colonies and Iran was still known to the outside world as the Persian Empire. Iranians have always called their country Iran, but for centuries Europeans, and later Americans, erroneously referred to it as Persia, a reflection of the facts that the Persians were historically the most dominant of Iran's many ethnic groups, and that it was the Persians who had created the first Iranian Empire in the days of Cyrus and Alexander. This confusion is understandable, but it is somewhat akin to referring to France as Gaul or to Italians as Romans. In 1935, Iran formally declared its desire to be known as Iran, not Persia. In order to avoid confusion and awkwardness when quoting from contemporary Western sources or discussing institutions with names like the Anglo-Persian Oil Company or the Persia Mission of the American Presbyterian Church, I have mostly chosen to use Persia and Persians when discussing events before 1935 and Iran and Iranians for events after 1935. And it began with something much more interesting than hostile acts and mutual accusations about original sins. When we choose to take this long-term approach to history, we discover something surprising. For hundreds of years, it turns out, well before their governments had any serious high-level interaction, the peoples of Iran and America looked at each other with a remarkable degree of fascination, admiration, warmth, and benevolence. In the 1720s, colonial American newspapers wrote at length and with great sympathy about the political affairs of the Persian Empire. In the 1790s, Thomas Jefferson and John Quincy Adams studied Persian history as they looked for inspiration and guidance on how to run their new nation. From the 1850s to the 1920s, Persian newspapers constantly urged their readers to learn from America's example and develop their country into a progressive, prosperous constitutional republic. In 1919, there were reports of pro-American riots on the streets of Tehran. This is where the story of Iran and America really begins. And this is what has been missing most acutely from all our discussions of the subject. Well before governments in Tehran and Washington began to step on each other's toes in our own lifetimes, well before the great Satan and Axis